Get the shoes. Thank you. Shoes on. Push. On. Shoes. Shoes on.
What you are seeing is perhaps the first documentation of who I am. For most children, they are able to learn to talk on their own. But for me, I had to get a speech coach before I could go to preschool, since I had preferred to use my own made-up language. This was perhaps the first sign that I was autistic. My name is Charlie MacDavid, and even though I didn't know I had high-functioning autism until I was either in middle school or high school, I always felt ashamed about it. At school, I had gotten special treatment when I needed to do schoolwork, but whenever I did, I always feel that I didn't need it, and that I was above getting help. As I got older, I was aware that I had autism, but I didn't particularly choose to acknowledge it. Since then, I have learned that there are people in my family that are also considered to be mentally disabled. People such as my aunts, uncles, and even my own mother. I have tasked myself to talk to many of my family members about their mental conditions, asking them how they cope with it, how the people in their life deal with it, and ask the question, is there such a thing as a perfect family? So, who are you? What's your name?
My name is Charlie MacDavid, and I'm an artist, and I'm also bipolar.
Okay, what is bipolar 2? Could you?
Bipolar 2 is where you get more depression and less mania. And the depression part can be really bad, but the mania is not so bad. Sometimes the mania is sort of productive time where I get a lot done.
So it affects your, the bipolar 2 can affect your work a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I can feel really good about myself, and when I get into it's kind of called hypomania because it's not destructive mania, it's good mania. It helps you get your work done and makes you feel good about yourself and what you're doing. And right now I'm kind of in a hypomania state.
She's always has a depression, and we have a good doctor, a good psychiatrist who takes care of her. And the medication does change at times. It does increase on one, decrease on another, change to another. But for the most part, it's been constant, and it does help her get through her life, which has been really good because she's an artist, and her art, she's really good at her artwork. And there are times when she feels it's not going anywhere, she feels down about it, but then she comes out, and then next thing you know, she's creating this incredible artwork.
So, what made you decide to become an artist?
Well, when I was 5 years old, I was taking art courses at a local art museum, and my parents were reacting really strongly to my work, and that's when I was just 5, but I just thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. But then when I went to college, I went for graphic design because I wanted something that was more practical in terms of making a living. But I really didn't like graphic design, and that's when I had my first suicide attempt, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was working in advertising, and I overdosed, and I ended up in the hospital. And then after that, I decided it wasn't worth it to work in graphic design and be so unhappy, and I decided to become a painter. Then I just freelanced in graphic design, and I took painting courses on the side.
So why was that not like working out for you?
I just wanted to paint. I wasn't interested in graphic design, even though I got to do some fun stuff, but to me it wasn't fun. It was just, I don't know, I just had this calling to paint.
And how has your painting career gone so far?
I have some really good years, and then I have some really bad years. It it's never enough that I give it up, though, because I always come back, and the galleries search me out sometimes. Sometimes I search them out, and sometimes they make really good sales, and other times not so much.
Some feel that artists do suffer, have mental issues. I'm not so sure if that's totally true. There may be some artists who do. I'm sure that and there's some others who don't. Just like in many, you find about business people and they suffer from depression or anxiety, and then there's some who just are even keel. So it's, who knows? But in her case, her bipolarism too doesn't stop her from doing what she has to do. She takes care of this family. She takes care of so many things. At times it's been low. She's, with hospitalizations and that kind of stuff, that's tough to deal with. But it's an ongoing process, and I think for the most part, with our doctor, it's been very manageable.
Do you have a story about about staying in institutionalized?
Yes. I've been hospitalized 4 times. And the first time was in my 20s. And the other times I was older. The last time I was hospitalized was when I was 54, which was 5 years ago. So I'm 59 now.
So what sort of the incidents that made you want to go to the hospital?
Extreme depression, and then I would overdose. And then I have to go to the hospital because I overdosed. And being in the hospital is no fun, really. You think you might just go there and sleep and be depressed, but you actually have to do a lot of meetings with other people, and they try and go through different roles and where you learn how to not get so depressed, and they do different lessons and things like that, groups that you have to go to, and so your day is pretty busy actually. There are some very crazy people. There's a mixture actually, and when I went to the hospital, the people that had anxiety and depression like I had were the fewer numbers. The most number of people had alcohol or drug addictions. And then there were a few people who were just really just crazy. And that's partly why I don't like going to the hospital, is because a lot of the people are young and have alcohol and drug addiction, and I can't really relate to that because I don't have any addictions.
All right. So, mind if I ask who you are?
I'm Charlie MacDavid.
How are you related to me?
I'm your aunt. I'm your father's sister, younger sister.
So, do you consider yourself to have some sort of a disability, or?
I don't particularly feel disabled, but I am definitely bipolar.
Bipolar.
Right. I'm more manic than depressed they call it bipolar 1. I'm a rapid cycler. I can be happy and depressed all in one day. Rapid cycling, I can be manic and depressed at the same time. It's not easy to medicate. I'm not even sure if my medication really does any good, except it slows down my brain a little bit. But other than that, I don't feel disabled, honestly. But I do have a disability.
Okay.
She's diagnosed as bipolar. I've always wondered if that's the correct diagnosis. I personally think she's has personality disorder. But, you know, this is what she's diagnosed with and how she's treated. She definitely does have bipolar characteristics. She has mania, she has depression. She hasn't been able to hold a job for a number of years, so she is currently on disability, and I am her Social Security disability representative. So I control her money. Her money comes to me through a direct deposit into an account that I control, and then I give her what she needs to live. I pay her rent, pay her other bills directly. I give her, basically, it's kind of an allowance, and she can spend then that way buying her groceries and that kind of thing.
You don't feel like your disability affects you. Did you ever felt like it did?
I think if I felt like it did back when I was over medicated. Back in the 90s when I was on like all these cocktails of meds, I wasn't able to function very efficiently. It affected my ability to work. I think what affected my ability to work was when people found out that I was bipolar, and they looked at me and treated me differently. But honestly, the way I've been stable for quite a while, and of course I don't work, so maybe that's part of it. You know, getting up and going to a job every day is very stressful, and I've never been any good at that. I have had so many jobs, I can't even remember. I worked at the public library. I loved that job. I worked in bars as bartenders and waitresses, and I've been a cook. I've actually done just about every job you can do in a restaurant. I was a paralegal. I loved that job. Well, sometimes. It depends where I worked. I was a coffee girl. I drove a little truck to construction sites selling coffee and sandwiches. That was a great job. I was a butcher. I cut up meat all day long. That was a very hard job. I've done so many, I've had tons and tons and tons of jobs. Lots of different jobs. Some were great and some weren't. And now a lot of, honestly, it depends on who you work with and your bosses and how they treat you. You can have like the crappiest job in the world, and if they treat you like family, they treat you good, that's great. And you can have the most prestigious job in the world. Like when I worked in one of the biggest law firms in New York State, but they treated us like we were just cogs. I hated them, they hated me. And I was working for the bad guys. I was working for the bad guys. I was so glad to get out of there. But I'm really happiest. I'm happiest when I'm with people and I'm like, performing and making people laugh and or like serving them food and seeing them happy. I just want to I like making people happy.
She can't hold a job. She is very capable. She's very smart. She is capable she's a talker. She can tell people anything. She can get a job at a drop of a hat because she can convince whoever is interviewing her that she is capable of doing this job. And generally she is. And this is her general pattern. And this, when I went to disability court to help her get disability, this is what I told them. She's very capable of getting a job. She gets her job, she goes through her first bout of depression. People like her, the people who have hired her like her. They feel bad for her that she's suffering from depression. So they go through this with her. She gets through it, she comes back, she's continuing doing her job, she's very capable. She goes through a manic period. When she's manic, she's aggressive, she's mean, she will tell people anything, she pisses people off. So she goes through this, and again, she's back to kind of a normal flow, she's doing fine, they're happy with her at work, she can do the work, and then she goes through another depression. Well, at this point, they're just like, okay, this is annoying. Here she is now, depressed again, calling in, can't come into work. They start to get sick of her. Then she goes through another manic period, and that's it. They're done. They're not putting up with that crap. You know, she's pissing off customers, whatever it is that she's doing. And she can't keep a job because of that cycle of her mental illness. And personally, when she's manic, it's really tough on me. She says horrible things to me. She I'm sorry.
If you need to stop, that's fine.
I just have to tell her, okay, I can't deal with you right now. Let's get through this. We'll get through this manic period. And I know what she's saying isn't true. It isn't how she truly feels about me or what I'm doing. But it's usually about money. You know, she's begging me for money, and I'm like, I'm not giving you money when you're manic. You know, and it's just we get through it. Luckily, her manic periods are far fewer than they used to be, and so I get through it. It's just one of those day-to-day things, and I never know when they're going to hit. I guess that's part of it. I can't plan for it because I don't know when it's going to happen. It's not a normal cyclical bipolar type thing with her, as I know with other people. So it is tough.
The rest of your family, like, how do they perceive you? If that's
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how they perceive me. I'm not even sure anymore.
do you care?
No, I stopped caring about that stuff a long time ago. I heard this in the AA meeting once, and it's so true. Other people's opinions of you are none of my business, and none of your business. So what they think is, I mean, honestly, it's none of my business. And if they like me, they don't like me. It's if they want to tell me, that's different. But nobody tells me anything, so that's how I look at it. So once upon a time, I would have cried many tears over shit like this, and I just don't anymore. That's a good thing, because that means I've got some level of serenity about this. So now I love my family. So I really love my family.
So, for the sake of this documentary, could you state your name for me and your relationship to me?
Robert Blaine McCluskey. I'm Charlie's uncle.
I see. And do you have some sort of a mental disability?
I had an aneurysm in 1994, and I had a stroke during the surgery, and I guess I don't have a mental disability, but it took me a while. I had to learn how to speak again, and at times you may hear me stutter because I still stutter at times, and especially when I'm nervous. And
Are you nervous?
well, yeah. I mean, it's it's something that doesn't happen every day. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So what are sort of the what are some of the most notable things about the aneurysm and what led after? Like, I guess you said that there was like stuttering, but how has it like impacted your life?
Well, I had to, like, for 2 weeks I had to spend in therapy just to get me to walk again, and they were uncertain whether I would be able to walk again, but I was able to walk, and I even able to train for a marathon, which I ran in Chicago with the Dr. Neil Graves, and that was a good accomplishment. But I did that, and I didn't really want to do another marathon. I, you know, I but I was glad to accomplish that, and well, maybe you can tell on my forehead. That's where they did the surgery. It's like, but you can't really tell unless you're right really close up to me.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Truth be told, all the years I've been coming, I never took notice of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to be kind of close to me. Yeah.
I don't know if he told you about when we were called. It was late at night, and the hospital said that Bob had checked in, and he was bleeding from the brain, and we needed to get there right away. And I told him we couldn't, because it'd take us about 5 hours to drive. And he said, well, he'll probably be dead by the time you get here. And of course he wasn't. And they went ahead and did the surgery, and they had trouble with the surgery. The vein that they had joined together fell apart, and his surgery became very long, like about 6-7 hours. And when he recovered from the surgery, he wasn't able to move his legs at all. And as he recovered a little more, when he talked, it didn't make any sense, and he called every object in the room by the wrong name, and so it was very hard to know what he was talking about. And then, of course, he had a lot of pain, and sometimes it was hours between the shots that he could have, and those were very hard times. You want to know, I guess, about his job. He got a job at the library. A friend of his was head of the library and liked Bob a lot and gave him that job, and because of him he was able to hold the job there. But Bob got tired of the job. His friend died, and then he tried getting jobs, and physical jobs. He's quite strong, but he doesn't have good use of his right arm at all. And they could always find somebody stronger to do physical work for them, so he didn't get those jobs. And other jobs he just didn't get. And the thing I have to offer about all this is Bob's temper. He goes for a long time. Things go very smoothly. And then after a while, time wears on, and you can tell something's building up in him, because he becomes more and more unpleasant. And finally, some very little thing will make him just explode. And of course, all of that's very hard to take. But I think that's why he couldn't ever hold a job for any length of time.
What's life like following the incident? In the years since, how
Well,
has that been?
I got a job with the University of Tennessee at Martin in their library, and I worked there for 10 years. And then I had another aneurysm, another seizure, which basically it was a seizure in my sleep. And it was where I woke up and I didn't know who I was, and for about 5 minutes. And I went to the doctor to talk about this, and it was the scariest thing I think I'd ever been through, where you just you lost that thing that gives you a point of meaning in the world, where you just don't know who you are, and that was scary. And but it hasn't happened again. But I was on Depakote, I was taking the medicine that I should take, and I've always been very good about that, and but that was just really scary. And at that time I had decided to basically, at the time I was considering going to Asia to go over there to teach English, and that all fell through at that time, and also the job fell through AUTM after 10 years. And so then I just live at home with my mother, and I kind of have this she's responsible for me and I'm responsible for her at the same time. It's like two people looking out for each other. And I've tried to look for a new job. I looked at even in factory work and stuff, and they just, I don't do things fast enough for them. And so, obviously that was a misstep. But I'm still looking for work, but right now I mow the lawn. We have a very big lawn. I cut wood. I take care of things here, and I take care of my mom, but she also takes care of me. So in a way it works out. It's fine, but also my mom is she's getting older, and I know that she's not going to be around forever, and that sooner or later I'm going to have to find something on my own.
Hello, my name is Charlie MacDavid. Ever since I started this documentary, I have been struggling to find a way to end this. I have done an interview with my parents. I have done an interview with myself that I had the assistance of my girlfriend. None of them were quite working, so I figured the best way to approach this would be to just give my thoughts about why I did this in the first place. And I feel like the best way to do this, to start off, is to just sort of answer the question that I gave in the beginning of this film, is there such a thing as a perfect family? And the answer is no. Ever since I started this documentary, in no way did I ever believe that to be the case. And I do not believe that there's a single family that has absolutely no flaws and everybody just gets along perfectly. It's just, why is that? It's just because human beings are flawed. And I feel like people with sort of mental disabilities or physical disabilities just have more flaws than supposed normal people. Not that they're bad in any stretch of the imagination, but to say that they don't struggle would be kind of an insult to them, because they do. Like, I have autism and I struggle with it every day, even though I may not know that I do. It does affect my social status as a person. It affects my thinking process, and it makes me afraid of what to expect. In particular, I don't know what to expect with my future. Like, as I'm filming this, I am on the cusp of graduating college, and I just don't know what to do with myself, honestly. Like, I want to go into the film business, but I also want to kind of take a break. Like, I have a girlfriend who's going to the college with me, and has at least another year of school before she graduates, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her, even though we've only really known each other for less than a year. But she has been probably one of the most influential people that I have met in my lifetime. She's the one that makes me feel like it's all worthwhile, and I cannot appreciate that more. But I don't want to be me just gushing about my girlfriend to the camera for the ending of this. I do want to talk a little bit about the experience with my own family. What did I take away from interviewing everybody? Truth be told, I don't know. I do get the sense that I understand these people better. My mom, I knew a little bit about. I definitely have a bit more knowledgeable. My aunt and uncles, I do feel like there is definitely a layer of family dynamic that I didn't know existed until I approached this. There were some things that I didn't know, and there are some things that I do know, but I just simply can't share with this film. Like, there are bits and pieces that I'm just not at liberty of sharing, whether it be about my mom's stay at the hospital or my uncle's Bob's temper. It's just, I can't elaborate on them, because like I said, it's just not something I am at liberty of saying, whether just simply because I don't want to offend the people who I've interviewed, because honestly, they have been so kind to me to do this and to just express themselves in a way that honestly I don't think many people have done so with their own family members, because I don't think it is quite addressed enough. And I hope so. I suppose one of the things I hope that I get out of this film is that my family are better off with this knowledge. Like, I hope that they are one the wiser. And this is just like the people I've interviewed, just the bottom. I've just scratched the surface pretty much. Like, there's so much more there's so many more people that I can talk to. The point I'm trying to make is, we as a civilization have problems that need to be more, not necessarily we ourselves, everybody needs to be more aware of, but just we need to be better families is perhaps what I'm trying to get at. I need to be a better family member. My aunt needs to be a better family member. My Aunt Polly, more specifically. My Uncle Bob, he probably does the best that he can. And so, the same thing with my mom. It's just, everybody can be better. That's just the gist of it. So, yeah.